This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
It is Wednesday, and welcome to the program, 6 after the hour to get things rolling today. This hour brought to you by Mesa Good Health, Good Business, and Great Schools. Appreciate your support to get us rolling today. Let's start with something a bit different today. Let's start with a story of hope, a story of dreaming big, a story of, well, just a story of a Michigan woman, the right person. If you haven't heard this lady, she is terrific. Julie Leach was on her lunch break at 1 a.m. when she stopped to check the Powerball lottery ticket she had purchased. First the Powerball 17, a match, then 21, 39, 40, 55, oh my God, and 59. All matches on the ticket that Leach, who is 50 years old, of Three Rivers, bought on September the 30th. Her prize, $310.5 million, second largest prize in Michigan lottery history. She decided to take the lump payment of $197 million, which comes out to about $140 million after taxes. She says she keeps going to sleep and waking up with the same beautiful dreams. Starting to realize this is actually real. She quit her job, by the way, as a supervisor of a Three Rivers fiberglass factory after realizing she had won, and she and her boyfriend, Vaughn Avery, planned to buy homes for their family. She's been dating the guy for 36 years. They might want to consider getting serious about it. We have always talked around campfires that if we ever won the lottery, we wanted to buy a bunch of land, Leach said. We wanted to buy a bunch of land and build homes for our kids, have our own little community in Michigan. Leach played in a lottery pool with her coworkers, but she stopped to buy $20 worth of extra tickets at the Three Rivers West Shell station on the way to work Wednesday night. At first, she did not believe she had won, returning to the aquatic bathware plant to ask coworkers to verify it. Then she went home and woke up. Avery, he wanted to go to work, I said. I said, are you crazy? We don't have to work anymore. All I know is I'm going to take care of my kids. I don't want them to work like I had to work. I want them to be taken care of. She has 2 children with Avery, a stepson, and 11 grandkids. There you have it, $310 million. What would you do? How would it change your life? And, you know, now, of course, the big push is for this new lotto system that could create the billion-dollar winners. $1 billion. Well, you know, that might be a bit much. You know, in a time of income inequality, there should probably be a cap on lottery winnings. You can only win so much, you know, because after $5 million or $10 million, you know, you're just getting greedy. What are you looking at me like that for? President Barack Obama's remarks in favor of gun control just a few hours after the mass shooting at Umpqua Community College, sparking anger in Roseburg, Oregon, about his upcoming visit to the city. David Jakes, a Republican activist who publishes a weekly newspaper in Roseburg and was on this program the day after the shootings, warned on national TV on Monday night that the president is not welcome in the community. Local social media sites in the conservative community are replete with criticisms of the president, and several local officials said Obama should just stay away from the subject of gun laws during his visit come Friday. Now, you know he won't do that. I was not pleased with the direction the commander-in-chief took after the shooting, said Representative Dallas Hurd of Roseburg. Let's hope he can think to do better when he comes here. We can only hope. The The White House said Obama is traveling to Roseburg to visit privately with families of victims of the shooting, leaving the impression he would not have any public events for what is expected to be a short visit. But come on, you know better than that. The furor over the president's visit led the Roseburg City Council to issue a statement saying city officials will welcome Obama and extend him every courtesy. Council President Tom Ryan said in an interview last night that the statement, which referred to as a misrepresentations of some people, was aimed at Jakes, who claimed to have support from community leaders. If Obama can help some families heal, more power to him, said Ryan. We don't need to be in the middle of a national gun rights debate, Ryan said. We have people who are healing. That is our main concern. Jakes was a delegate to the 2012 Republican National Convention, has been interviewed by, well, a lot of folks, including myself, as I mentioned, and featured on conservative websites. He said in an interview with the Oregon Live that Obama showed blatant disrespect for the mourning process, and he charged that the president is coming to Roseburg to recruit family members to speak out in favor of tougher gun laws, which is what has happened at other previous shootings. So I can see where he's coming from. And make no mistake, the internet is full of gun control stories. New gun control stories coming from the White House, Hillary Clinton, old Bernie Sanders. All sorts of new gun control ideas, I suppose, are going to flow out. We don't know what they are yet. But Press Secretary Josh Earnest addressed reporters Monday, noting gun control is a high priority. And we will continue, and it will continue to be until we start to see more progress on this issue in this town. I can tell you they are not stumped. They're continuing to review the law that are on the books and continuing to consult with legal authorities, but also others who may have ideas about what steps that can be taken to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. So I don't know what that means. I believe that Barack Obama would like to see you turn in all your guns. He would like to see your guns in the backs of dump trucks. And why wouldn't he? He has armed guards and bulletproof Suburbans with rocket launchers in the back end. Little SAMs, little surface-to-air missiles. Why would he care if you're armed? I saw a movie. I mentioned this to some folks we were talking to last night. I saw a movie where the police and military were the only ones that had guns. They won an Academy Award, in fact. The movie that I saw where only the police and military had guns. You might have seen this movie, too. It was called Schindler's List. Schindler's List, Academy Award-winning motion picture. It's 14 after the hour. It's Wednesday here on the program. The phone number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. Welcome to it. We'll be right back.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
I was justified when I was 5, raising Cain, I spit in your
It's 18 after the hour.
times are changing now. The
Yeah, he's back, all right.
but the thief is gonna catch you when the bitch gets back.
Yeah, I'm not sure I ever left. Listen, I'm looking at these postings by Josh Earnest and the White House and others blaming the National Rifle Association. So it's the National Rifle Association's fault that there are maniacs in the streets, right? The fact of the matter is, give me the law. Give me the idea. Show me the law that hasn't been passed, that could be passed, that would change what happened at Umpqua or anywhere else. But Hillary Clinton supporters believe they found the way to put Bernie Sanders on defense, and that is gun control, Throughout her campaign, Clinton has sought to highlight her support for gun control, seizing on an opportunity to appeal to progressives and, curtail liberty for free Americans. In doing so, Clinton allies have pushed a narrative that has, as a member of the House of Representatives, Sanders voted against the Brady Handgun Violence Protection Act in 1993. That's the bill that laid the foundation for the current national background check system. Clinton allies and top Democratic strategists say it is an issue that could hurt the Vermont senator. Abject socialist, but believes in guns? Well, probably not a lot. He's going to have to evolve on this issue because he's not where Americans, including Democrats, are, said one strategist, but that strategist is flat out wrong. He's run a strong campaign thus far against Clinton. In fact, he's winning big in New Hampshire, 14-point lead there. He's a Democratic socialist. Democratic socialists are better known as Nazis, but hey, that's what they are. And that's the term, not my term. I'm not comparing him to Nazism. I'm saying that's what a Democratic socialist is, by definition. He has championed Marxist causes and dragged Clinton to the left on economic and foreign policy issues. Sanders backs the Iran deal, wants to pull U.S. troops out of Afghanistan altogether. He said the U.S. should focus less on international conflict and more on the nation's middle class. He's an opponent of the Trans-Pacific Partnership that the president is now out pushing. He'd also make college and university tuition free. Of course, he has no way to pay for that. He'd also require that employers provide 12 weeks of paid family leave and break up the big banks. But on gun control, Sanders sounds more like a centrist or even a Republican. While he backed a 2013 Senate bill imposing tougher background checks for gun sales, he's downplayed the need for gun control. He voted against the Brady bill, voted in favor of a 2005 legislation that shielded gun manufacturers from lawsuits, which creates opportunities for Clinton. So I'm surprised to say it, but I agree with Bernie Sanders on these issues. I mean, that would be opening up General Motors to lawsuits from the victims of drunk drivers. Nobody would let that happen. Nobody would let that happen. Except in this strange political climate, they'd go after the gun manufacturers, and put American workers in the streets. And put American workers in the streets. That would be a really slick deal. And, Clinton has to do something because her campaign continues to flounder. In fact, now the FBI probe of Hillary Clinton's emails has found a second tech company that's in the mix here. A source familiar with the investigation has told Fox News that the FBI contacted Connecticut-based Datto Incorporated back in September and asked them to preserve all data which may be connected to Clinton. Now, Datto was hired, that's D-A-T-T-O, Datto was hired to help back up data in 2013 May by Platte River Networks. That is the Colorado-based tech firm that has had all of Hillary Clinton's emails from her homebrew server for all this time. The cooperation of a second tech company raises new questions about whether the FBI is now obtaining any of the emails that Clinton says she and her attorneys had deleted because they had deemed them personal. Critics demanding to know if any of those emails were really work-related. It should have been turned over to the State Department. The point being is this investigation is getting bigger and wider and more dangerous to Hillary Clinton. No question about it. Bigger, wider, and more dangerous to Hillary Clinton. And her campaign is taking on water. Speaking of taking on water, South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley says she doesn't have a dollar amount right now for the damage done by the historic rains and flooding in her state. Haley said yesterday that officials are still assessing the damage and trying to get roads and bridges repaired. The rain has finally stopped, but it could likely be in the billions. In fact, we have a couple of comments from Governor Nikki Haley of South Carolina about the damage and about what her state is facing going forward. Here it is.
I understand the interest and the urgency to know what the cost and what the number actually is. This is what I will tell you. We're not going to stop until we get everything we need to get back up and running and fixed again. That could be X X amount of dollars. That's not my concern right now. My concern is that we're following the processes we need to with FEMA. My concern is that we've got good communications with the counties. My concern is that we've got the best people on the ground to do assessments. My concern is that we have asked for FEMA's legal team to come in to make sure that we are looking at every T crossed and every I dotted for all of those contracts that need to be done. And my appreciation is that the feds and FEMA have been extremely helpful in us moving forward. And so that's what I want people to know. This could be any amount of dollars. Let's get off of the dollars and let's focus on the recovery, because that's what all of this team is focused on.
I like her as a governor, by the way. No nonsense. Nikki Haley, straightforward. I think she's the first governor of Indian descent, or maybe Bobby Jindal was. But anyhow, interesting lady, great Republican, and a lady who's no nonsense and straight to the point. It is 25 after the hour on a Wednesday here on the Steve Gruber Show. We've got a lot of big things in front of you this morning here on the program. And we're going to talk to Americans for Prosperity, the Heritage Foundation, and Rafi Williams, the RNC spokesman, talking about Hillary Clinton's problems. It's all still to come this day on the Steve Gruber Show.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day.
33 after on this Wednesday. Going to go to the hotline, by the way. 888-900-9966 is the number. Brian in Southern Michigan on the line. Brian, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. You know, Steve, I've never seen a gun make a decision for itself. But yet Hillary Clinton and her clan, they think that it has the ability to make decisions and stuff. But yet abortion doctors make decisions every day on how to murder people. But you don't see her and her clan go after abortion doctors. They celebrate abortion.
They sure do. Brian, I greatly appreciate your call, and that's going to be one of the hot-button issues. In fact, when we get into the conversation with Senate Majority Leader Arlen Meekhoff here a little bit later in the program and his endorsement for president, we'll talk about gun control. We'll talk about the Planned Parenthood crisis and scandal. We'll talk about all of those things. Thanks for the call in today, Brian. The hotline number, if you'd like to join the conversation, 888-900-9966. Our next guest is Peter Lund, State Director for the Michigan chapter of Americans for Prosperity. And they say it's time to fix the allocation of resources from the gas tax so that more money can flow directly to the repair of roads and bridges and infrastructure. Peter Lund, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Well, outline this for me, Americans for Prosperity, what you guys are outlining and almost demanding and saying this is the way we need to handle this. We need to get it together, boys.
Well, I think we've talked about this before, the fact that we have a lot of taxes on gasoline that don't go to roads, that go to other things like local governments, education. And what we need to do is take all the tax money that's paid when you go and buy a gallon of gasoline and put it directly into the roads and not these other things. We have some of the lowest gas taxes in the country, but some of the highest taxes on gas in the country, because when you go and buy gas, you're paying a sales tax on that gasoline, and that money doesn't go to the roads. It goes to everything else.
Yeah, it goes to a variety of places. And I guess my question, and I'm going to ask Arlen Meekhoff about this a bit later on the program too, why should we, the taxpayers of Michigan, trust anything that we're told? I mean, we were told that Build Michigan 1, 2, and 3 back in the 80s and 90s with Governor Engler and so forth. We're going to, fix the roads. We're still paying for that, by the way. The roads that were allegedly fixed back then have re-crumbled and turned back into dust. We're being told that we can't do this, we can't do that. We've got $150 billion in debt, depending on who you ask. $150 billion in debt in a state that the budget's only $55 billion. So our debt is 3 times what our budget is in totality. How do we ever expect to dig out of that hole? It's mind-blowing, frankly.
And it's frustrating. It's frustrating, the fact that we're paying all this money to Lansing, and we got to make sure that we're getting our money's worth out of it. And
Clearly.
the important thing is, and when you get to roads again, is making sure that money that we send to Lansing actually goes to what we send it for. And again, it's taking every penny that a person pays in taxes on gasoline should go to the roads, period.
Well, you mean there's got to be a little bit extra for something else, or you say not one penny goes anywhere else. Roads, bridges, that's it. That's what it does.
That's what it should. That's what it should do.
You know what's funny
And
about
that's
all
what-
this is, I've been watching the gasoline prices creep back up to $2.50, $2.55, $2.60 a gallon without explanation, by the way, because oil remains dirt cheap, and the prices are creeping up. So the whole conversation about gas taxes and so forth. The reason they were going to try to sneak it in real quick is because prices were so low. Well, if prices get back to $3 and then the state legislature smacks us with more gas, well, that's going to be a problem, I would think.
I think so too, and I think that you can't really time that at all, because I think we've all gone to bed one day and seen a gas price and then drive to work the next morning and see it 15 cents higher. So
or 20 or 30.
You can't try to time something.
Yeah, it just goes up 15, 20, 25, 30 cents. And I don't understand how that all works. And we've tried to have it explained here by people that allegedly understand how that works, and we never get to the bottom of it. We're on the line with Peter Lund, the state director for the Michigan chapter of Americans for Prosperity. And Peter, I think the challenge you face here is how do you dictate to the legislature this has to happen? I don't disagree with you. I just wonder how you get to, requiring them to use the money collected for gasoline sales to be used in the same environment in which it was collected, that in transportation, in the transportation world, be it cars, semi-trucks, whatever, put it all back where it belongs. I don't know how you demand that happens.
Well, I think that one of the important things is we can't do it by ourselves. It takes the people and the people's action. It takes people who hear your show calling up their legislator and demanding that, and letting them know that this is what needs to be done. And it's a fight that we have to fight all the time. We have to be constant about it. We can't let up. And this is our opportunity to speak about it because they are talking about this issue. And I think the people spoke very loudly when they turned down the Proposal 1, 80-20, is showing that they didn't want higher taxes. They want the roads to be fixed. We know that. But they're saying, use the money we already send you. Don't go out and just raise taxes on us.
Well, clearly, because we still have trouble paying off, like I said, those Build Michigan 1, 2, 3 projects, big multi-year, multi-jurisdictional projects that are still, being paid for 10, 20, 30 years later, and what do we have to show for it? We have debt to show for it. Yeah, and that's pretty disappointing. And the other thing that you hear people say, well, if we can't do this, then we're just going to turn your roads back into dirt roads. Fine. You know what I say to that? Fine. Where I live in the country. You don't want to pave my road? Fine. Come through with that mulcher, that thing pulverizes the road, turn it back into a gravel base? Fine. If that makes you financially and fiscally responsible, so be it. We've got to. You've got to start somewhere.
I've heard say that, Steve.
What's that?
You're not the first person I've heard say that. That's something that's growing more and more. People saying, "Go ahead. If that saves us money, if that puts us in a better financial situation, go ahead and do it."
Well, they say share the pain.
We're not talking about turning the freeways into that. We're talking about doing smaller country roads that way.
That's right. Secondary roads. Third-tier roads, really, not trunk roads and not interstates, not the main roads. But you know what? Where I live, if that's what there's a lot of farm equipment running my roads anyway that tear those roads up. I mean, there's a piece of road that I run not too far from my house that somebody dropped a big old plow on 5 years ago and didn't realize it and drove for 3/4 of a mile dragging the plow, it appears. The disc, not the plow. The disc down the road. It has huge gouges. It has for years. You know what? These things happen. It heal a lot quicker on a gravel road anyhow. Peter, give me your last thoughts on how we make sure that we take care of the money so it'll take care of itself.
Well, again, I think that it all goes back to basically making sure that when you go out to vote, to begin with, you vote for the people who not only say the right thing, but have done the right thing over time, to make sure that you let them know that you're going to hold them accountable to make sure that they're doing the proper thing. And it's calling their offices, talking to them at their office hours to let them know that you expect them
to do the right thing.
Your thoughts in mind.
You got it. Peter Lund, State Director for the Michigan Chapter of Americans for Prosperity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
There you have it. All right, let's quickly go to the hotline. Scott is on the line in Iron Mountain in the UP. Scott, welcome to the program.
Steve, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, Steve, I agree 100%, man. All the gas tax collected's got to go. Just like the counties, when they collect, the counties get paid by the gas tax revenue, too. They don't get paid by the taxpayer. And a lot of people don't understand that. Bitch of the counties, you didn't plow, you only made one sweep, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, the gas tax is designed to take care of our roads, and that's where it should go. And one other thing I believe that should happen, and it's been looked at by 2 states already. I know Wisconsin looked at it, and so has Texas. And they're trying to get it a little farther down the line, but get rid of the property tax.
Eliminate the property tax.
How are you going to pay for the schools and this and that?
Well, we'll figure it out.
On the dollar.
Scott, thank you so much for checking in from Iron Mountain.
Covering Michigan and the world from his bunker below the bridge. Here is Steve Gruber.
White man came across the sea. He brought us pain and misery.
45 after the hour. Vladimir Putin now raking up victories in Syria. You know, all he has to do is take back Azerbaijan, Armenia. You know, he can build a little land bridge. If he steals just a little bit of Turkey, he can extend the Soviet Union all the way to the Mediterranean. Yeah, the new Soviet Union, if you will. Could be done that way. Our next guest, James Jay Carafano, the director of the Douglas and Sarah Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies and the deputy director of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. 3 business cards is what this man needs. Anyhow, James, welcome back to the program.
Hey, it's good to be with you.
Give me an idea. Top 5. Vladimir Putin. This is like a David Letterman piece. Give me the top 5, accomplishments of Vladimir Putin in the last 6 months while Barack Obama does whatever it is he does.
Oh, only 5. I mean, where can we end? I just wrote a piece on this on Fox because, the president went on there. He said, hey, Putin is doing this out of weakness, right? Mm-hmm. Which is, and that may be true, but it's not really terribly relevant because the fact is Putin is doing this, and that's the problem. Mm-hmm. And it can make the world a worse and more dangerous place. And so for the president to say, oh, well, he's just doing this out of weakness. Well, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor out of weakness. How'd that work out for you?
Yeah.
So, I mean, the kids are, playing with matches. Well, they're just frustrated. I mean, come on. I mean, it's like he's treating Putin like a petulant child, and that that if I just sit there, eventually the child will start behaving.
We'll continue to rationalize bad behavior, and that's what but let's be honest, that's what liberals do. Rationalize bad behavior.
I mean, I'm not a partisan guy. I work at a nonpartisan foundation. We just do research. I mean, the bad guys don't care, who runs the West Wing, if it's the right wing or the left wing. But I got to tell you, most of our problems in the world today are of our own making. Our president's policies have really enabled Putin to do all the things he's doing, and it's made the world a more dangerous place for us. And whether you talk about China or ISIS or Iran or the Middle East, it's all the same. Many of the problems that we face in the world today are problems of our own making in the last decade.
No question. And the majority of the last decade, 7 years, if you will, has been controlled by one weak president. But I'll be honest with you, George W. Bush, not a great president in my estimation, followed by a weaker president in my estimation. 2 of the weaker presidents in American history back to back.
Well, to Bush's credit, when he left office, and let me just focus on the Middle East, he left office with an Iraq that had a future. It was at peace. Nobody was dying. There was no ISIS there, and people in the region feared and respected the United States because we had toppled Saddam Hussein. We had weathered a terrible insurgency sponsored by Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda's stock was at an all-time low, and we were actually in a very, very strong position. And the region was in a very, very positive and constructive position. And all Obama had to do is stuck it out. Look at this. First of all, if we had left 30,000 troops in Iraq and the Arab Spring happened and Syria started to go down, ISIS and they would have had no place to go. They could not have gone into Iraq and got enough money to be the richest terrorist organization on work. Assad may well have been toppled, and Syria today might well be an independent country. But it was our indifference that really has fueled a good deal of this.
It's more than indifference. Hold on.
People can say, well, it's all Bush's fault because of the Iraq War. But you know what? There are no do-overs in history. You get the world you get, and then what you make of it is your responsibility.
Well, but 2 things here. First of all, the president openly campaigned for the job and then complained, that he had this huge mess on his hands. Well, you campaigned for the job, pal. You wanted to deal with it. And, we could debate, like you said, what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan and so forth. But you're right. The place was left in a semblance of order that has continued to disintegrate ever since because we never got a SOFA agreement. We didn't enforce the red line in Syria, another major mistake, which showed weakness on the part of the commander-in-chief. And as a result, in that vacuum, look what has happened. You have ISIS. You have a civil war nearly in Syria, and you have these other conflicts that are happening. And meanwhile, here comes... fresh off his wins in Crimea, here comes Vladimir Putin riding to the rescue, if you will.
What I think a lot of people haven't paid attention to is the timing of this is really important. Okay, so we've always known that Assad is hung on because he's been propped up by two important allies, the Iranians and the Russians. But what was really interesting is this latest round where the Russians are very visibly moved to do major military operations, is they waited until the day after the Iran agreement was cleared the Congress, until it was very clear that Congress was not going to derail the Iran agreement, because they didn't want to do something which would give people an excuse to vote against the Iran agreement. And then as soon as it was approved, and this was supposed to be the great flowering of cooperation with Iran, we were going to figure out how to cooperate with Russia, Putin turns around, he sticks his finger in Obama's eye, and he does this. You couldn't ask for a bigger insult or a bigger statement from Iran and Russia that we really don't respect, care, or fear what you do. It really is a stunning indictment. Look, the Soviet Union would have never done something like this. They would have never dared to put combat troops on the ground in the Middle East. This is the weakest foreign policy, the weakest position we've had since the 1970s.
Yeah, since Jimmy Carter was president. I know you're not a biased guy or a political guy, allegedly, and I appreciate that, James, but we're in the weakest position since James Earl Carter Jr. occupied the office and Billy was slugging beers down in Plains, Georgia. I'd take some more time and, hurl some insults at the Carter family, but, whatever. I'm good for today. James Jay Carafano, I greatly appreciate it, and we have to keep an eye on this because Putin's not done. He's building military bases in Syria. He has... his warships cruising the Mediterranean. Yeah, I'd say it's a problem, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
There you have it, James J. Carafano from the Heritage Foundation. We didn't even get through the top 5 victories of Vladimir Putin, but I'm sure he's got more to come. 52 after the hour on the Steve Gruber Show.